Hey, this is Colin Gibson, and I'm coming at you again today with some golf equipment talk. And I've been watching a lot of YouTube on club fitting lately, and I never really have in the past. But the reason I'm doing that is because I'm hearing so many weird theories and so much weird advice on how you should set up your golf clubs correctly. And I'm specifically talking about the building of your golf clubs and specifically how to orient your shafts. And so there's been a few videos out recently by some pretty prominent YouTube guys that are trying to tell you guys that shaft alignment doesn't matter. That could not be further from the truth. So if you've got clubs in your bag, or if you've got your whole bag with shafts just randomly glued or epoxied into the club heads, then, and you think that's fine, then you just might as well take that bag, your golf bag and all your other golf equipment, throw it into a dumpster, light that dumpster on fire, and run the other direction, because you're never going to be a consistent golfer if you don't have proper shaft alignment. Now, I know you guys are saying, well, why should I listen to you or should I listen to these other guys that say it doesn't matter? Okay, I'm going to show you and tell you exactly why it really does matter to align your shafts in a certain way and consistently all the way through your bag. And I'm going to give you guys some demonstrations. I'm going to show you how a steel shaft behaves when you're loading it. I'm going to show you how a graphite shaft behaves when you load it. So just before I show you that, every single shaft has asymmetries. No shaft is perfect, okay? It's always been that way, and shafts are getting better. But even really expensive, well-made shafts, graphite shafts that are spun, wound, and all this stuff to keep them symmetrical, they also have asymmetries, and they have different bending planes, okay? So you've heard me, if you haven't watched some of my other videos on shaft alignment and spining and flowing and SST peering, then go to my channel and watch those videos too, because that'll give you some more information. But basically today, what we're going to be talking about is how to orient your shafts in the club build and how to orient them to the club face. Okay, so you're going to see when I turn the camera around that every shaft has a weak plane of bending, and a strong plane that doesn't bend as much. Now, some club builders will call the weak plane the spine, and some will call the strong plane the spine. So while you may hear me refer to spining your shafts, I'm going to refer in this video to the weak plane and the strong plane so that it doesn't get confusing, okay? So you'll see when I load a shaft with a ball bearing on it that the shaft twists and will only load, or it will fight to be loaded on the weak plane. So if you try to load it on the strong plane, it'll flip to the weak plane strongly in almost all cases. Like there's a strong urge for that shaft to only load on the weak plane, okay? Because it wants to load where there's the least resistance, okay? If that concept makes sense to you, then you will understand very quickly why having the weak plane of the shaft pointed at the target, okay, where your club face is going, is the only way to set up your clubs. Okay, so I'm going to flip the camera around and show you a tool that I call the wiggle stick, okay? And it's a piece of metal that has a golf club or a golf grip attached to it, and there's a weak plane and a strong plane. All right, guys, we've got the wiggle stick, okay? If you guys can see this thing, it's just a piece of metal that is very flexible in one direction. We're going to call that the weak plane, okay? The flat plane is the weak plane. And then if you try to flip it 90 degrees and you try to bend it, of course, you can't bend it at all. We're going to call that the strong plane, okay? And it's got a golf grip attached to it so you can swing it. Now, when you orient this thing with the weak plane at the target, what I can do is I can just I'm barely holding on to this. like a baby bird, just like you're supposed to hold the golf grip. And it's swinging back and forth on plane. It's staying there. Even when I'm almost letting go, this thing is staying square, okay? Square to the target, square to the target, okay? Now, let's flip it, okay? With the strong plane in that direction. Now, I'm holding it pretty lightly, and I can get it, if it's 90 degrees perfectly, I can get it to swing, but I can feel it drooping, and I can feel it coming up at certain times, okay? And when that happens, what I have to do is I have to really grip the grip tight in order to stop it from doing that. So I can get it to be like I'm holding it like a sword. I can get it to do that, but because it's flexible, it tries to droop and it tries to flip up. Now I'm gonna do 45 degrees, and I'm gonna try to swing it back. I'm literally trying to swing this back and forth, and it's going haywire, okay? Now, this is an exaggeration, okay, but this is exactly what every golf shaft in your bag does and tries to do. So you saw from when I was swinging around the wiggle stick that there's one orientation where the weak plane of the shaft is facing the target, that you can have light grip pressure, and you can swing that back and through, and the club face or that plane is trying to stay square. It's actually fighting to stay square to the target. And if you flip it 90 degrees and put the strong plane at the target, which I know is what some club, makers recommend, you can keep it square at the target, but that shaft, when you load it heavily, is going to try to twist. And depending on exactly how it's oriented, it's either going to try to twist open or twist closed to get back to that weak plane. It's going to try to twist to the path of least resistance when you load it. So when you're swinging it, it's going to twist on you. Okay, if you have the weak plane at the target, it wants to twist square. It wants to stay square. If you try to twist it, it tries to get back to square. And that's why having the weak plane at the target is so important. It will make your iron shots and your drives and everything so much straighter, so much tighter. Okay, it's unbelievable, the difference. Okay, so, you have to get these things oriented correctly. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the camera again and show you, a spining process that shows you, like, if you just put the sticker or the logo of the club in a certain orientation and you load it, the shaft tries to flip on you. All right, guys, so I've got a brand new set of True Temper Dynamic Gold X100 Tour Spec shafts that I'm gonna spine today and put in some clubs. But anyway, I've got this shaft on my spining bearing. Okay, it's just a vise with a bearing in it. Then I've got an extra bearing that I'm going to load the shaft with. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that they just like to orient the logo or the stickers, down or up or something, and that's how they glue their club. That's how they assemble their clubs. That's how they epoxy them together, and that's hilarious because right now I've got this logo down. You can't see a logo anywhere on the shaft. Now I'm going to load this shaft with this, and the logo is just going to pop up just because it's trying to twist to the least path of resistance. Okay, so if I load it, see if I can get this in here. I load it, and oh, what happened? There's the logo. Let's do that again. I'm going to twist it so the logo's down. Now I'm going to load it. Let's go back. Load it, and the logo's up again. Okay, so let me flip the camera. So you just saw when I loaded that shaft with the logo down, the logo flipped right back up. So if you put that shaft in your 5-iron with the logo down and you need to hit a 210-yard shot and you put a hard load on your 5-iron, as you're swinging that, the club face is going to twist one way or the other, not square, not how you want it to. Okay, and it may only be a degree or two, but that's going to cause you to push or pull. Okay. And depending on how you have the weak plane of that shaft oriented, it might always pull. So you might have like a club in your bag that you always pull, because it could be, let's say you have your 5-iron set up to where it always pulls, and then you have your wedge set up to where it always pushes. That is going to drive you nuts, okay? Because you're going to have a lot of times on the course where, like maybe on a par 5, where you hit a 5-iron for your second shot and you've got a little wedge in, and you're just spraying it all over the place, okay? So my biggest point of today's video is that you need to orient all of the shafts in your bag all the same, okay? Yes, I think, and I know that you should orient the weak plane of the shaft at the target in all your clubs. But let's say that your club builder does it differently and they point the strong plane of the shaft at the target. At least if it's in all of your clubs, then all of your clubs are going to behave the same, okay? But if you just have random orientations with the weak plane all over the dial, in one club, it could be 12 o'clock, another 6 o'clock, another 9 o'clock, another 3 o'clock, another, 7 o'clock, then you are going to hit shots everywhere, okay? And you're not going to know why. You're going to think it's your swing, but it's actually your equipment. So what I'm begging golfers to do is to eliminate all equipment problems from their bags. If you get rid of all your equipment problems, then the only thing left to blame is your swing. And that's how you can get better, okay? And, 5 years ago is kind of when I discovered this and started building my own clubs or having my clubs built to a specific way, which I believe is the correct way. And my handicap, went from high single digits down to scratch in no time, as soon as I started using those type of clubs consistently. So if you're using poor equipment, you're going to get poor results, okay? If you have questions about this, comment below, feel free, I'll get back to you. And I'll have to make some more videos about this to explain it more fully. But if you're not orienting your shafts correctly, if you don't believe in shaft alignment, then throw your clubs in the dumpster, burn it, and get a new hobby.